Welcome back to CodingCat.dev, where we give you cats the freshest dose of dev snacks. Brought to you by Cloudinary, build faster with AI-powered image and video APIs. Need better search? Try Algolia, powering discovery. What up, perfect peeps? Welcome back to CodingCat.dev podcast. Today on the show, I have Roman with me. What's up, Roman?
Thank you, Alex. Happy to be here. I know that we were trying to make this work for a long time, and now I'm so glad we made it happen. So
yeah, same. Me too. It was good. So I'm kind of like syncing up with all the Firebase folks after Google I/O. You were at I/O, right?
Yes, I was.
I just couldn't find you.
I know. Yeah, I was all over the place. It was so much stuff to digest out of it. I was like blown away by all the great stuff that they showed.
I think there was like 4,500 people there. It was a fun thing for me. I put it on my Twitter that the back of me was featured over and over in the keynote because I was sitting in front of the camera apparently.
You actually did the same thing I did. Like I took a screenshot of the keynote, and then I raised my hand when in the keynote they mentioned Flutter, and I'm like, oh, that's my hand. That's me right there. Yeah.
That's awesome. I love it. So I want to dive into who Roman is and kind of get to know you a little bit more. Can you just take me all the way back to college days and kind of what's got you started in the tech world?
Let's do it. Again, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me to your space. I'm so happy to be here. My name is Roman Jacquez. I am originally from Dominican Republic. I lived in New York for like about 13, 14 years. I did my college there in Lehman College. I did a bachelor's degree in computer science. I was so passionate about computers. Actually, this was not what I wanted to do at the beginning. Like at the beginning, I wanted to do like civil engineering or being an architect.
Damn.
And then I walked into a computer lab, and then I put my hands on the keyboard, and I'm like, nah, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to do computers. I wanted to get involved in that. Then I started building like little projects and whatnot, getting more enthusiastic about it. It was a little bit hard for me to, again, break into the market, into the industry, but at least, my passion for it, the things that I wanted to build, for other people, for myself, and just like the passion that I have for technology overall was that actually what got me where I am. I've been in many companies working as a software engineer. I initially started doing more like web. So I was more like into the ASP.NET. And like, I remember being like a Microsoft, really a Microsoft buff, doing like ASP.NET, Serverlite, WPF, Xamarin. I even got into that. But then throughout my journeys, I was like looking for something that would give me the biggest bang for my buck. Like what if like a framework would come out that I could do like a single code base, literally targeting multiple frameworks. I used to do my applications 3 times. Like I would do coded in Android, like a mobile application. Then I would do one in an iOS Objective-C, and then the other version in Windows C#. And I'm like, there's got to be something that actually comes out that is much better than having to maintain multiple code bases. Now, come 2018, and I see the Flutter Live event. I'm like, what is this? I hear something called Flutter. This is amazing. I immediately touched it. And Alex, kid you not, I dumped all of the other languages and I said, I want to focus on Flutter. And here I am. I am a Flutter GDE. I am also a lead organizer at GDG Lawrence. I'm very passionate about this technology. And again, I've created like so many great things, and I just like to share it with other folks.
That's amazing. That's a great story too. It's kind of fun like to hear people's paths and kind of going through the different areas that they've been through. I wanted to specifically ask you from like the way back, the Lion Bridge company you worked at.
Oh yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit more like about what you did there?
Yes, Lionbridge was actually the first company that I, when I got into the market, into the software engineering, I started actually as a desktop publisher technical lead. I was still not like heavy into software yet, but I still had the bug in me. I said, I have a degree in software engineering. I need to put it to work. But I kind of had a little passion about like, desktop publishing and stuff. And then I was creating even little tools inside of the company. This is a company which I actually appreciated the opportunity there. They do localization and translation for like software and documents and whatnot. But then internally within the company, I remember that I was into Adobe Flash Builder, which was like one of those frameworks that you could build actually like web applications, mobile applications with one single code base using ActionScript. And I loved it. And then internally within the company, I built like a little tool to manage people's workloads. Nobody asked me about it. I just built it because I love it. And I'm like, oh, this is really cool. This is something that maybe I could show people. People were mad at me because then my manager said, everybody has to use the software to manage their workloads. And I'm like, oh, okay, even though people are mad at me, but at least I'm building something that people are using. And then I said, I think I should continue this path. So in Lionbridge, this is actually where I matured as a software engineer. I showed my stripes, and I started up, building my career from there. And then from there, I said, this is what I want to continue doing. No more desktop publishing, no more localization. I want to do software engineering. So yeah.
That's awesome. And then ultimately you kind of wound up at Philips Health System.
Yes.
And can you just tell us a little bit about like what you do? You've been there a while, right? Like
yes, I've been roughly 8 years. Before that, I was in a sales company before that called Qvidian. Also there, I was building like mobile applications, Android, iOS, web application. Nice. I was like one of the leads in there, like the UI leads for that company. Then when I moved to Philips, again, in the Philips division, because a lot of people ask me like, Roman, can I get a discount on a Philips Hue? I'm like, no, not the lighting division. Oh, can I get like on a TV? No TVs. It's Philips Health, the health division. Right. For example, you see those monitors like at hospitals. I'm very proud of that because again, not only there's a lot of quality in there, even though there's been a couple of issues, but at least it's a great company to work for. And let me be honest with you, Alex. So here at Philips, I was doing a lot of WPF, a lot of web, a lot of Angular. I was doing like a lot of like web applications. And then when Flutter came out, I said, I think I need to pitch Flutter to my managers and to my team. So I created a presentation. I created a little demo. I pitched it to my manager, crossing my fingers, saying, if this doesn't work, I'll probably get fired. But I said, no, let me just pitch it. When I pitched it to my manager, and he says, this is a no-brainer. One single code base, 7 multiple platforms. Everybody drop what you're doing. Let's focus on this technology that then we can use to put products out there in record time. Now 2 years into it, now I'm the lead Flutter engineer in the team, and I'm not only mentoring a group of 8 other developers. We've built a couple of applications with it, and we also have a project that is actually ongoing right now, backed by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, where we're building a Flutter application that is actually tapping into pre-trained models, and it's being used to kind of like diagnose, actually like to prevent mortality in neonatal and prenatal care. It's actually an amazing application built with Flutter, and I'm really happy to be here, just building what I love, using the technologies that I love.
That's amazing. That's really cool that you're able to kind of pursue that passion and go after it and then actually get to work in it, like convince your company that it was a good thing to do. And I know like Flutter as a whole has had some growing pains over the years. So it's nice that it's at a place for production and like Dart's a thing, and they keep improving it over and over and over.
Totally.
It's funny you mentioned Bill and Melinda Gates. I think Melinda actually left the foundation and took her cash. So I was joking with a friend of mine. I was like, I think it's just going to be the Bill Gates Foundation.
Yeah, the Bill Gates Foundation.
That's so, I don't know. I hope the name stays.
I hope so too. But again, in line, this goes in line with when people ask me, "Oh, there are not that many jobs about Flutter," and I say, "Why don't you make your own Flutter job? Like, why don't you pitch it to your team, to your manager?" I was not a full-time Flutter developer, but I was doing it outside of work, and I said, "I want to do this 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week. I want to do this as my full-time job." So I made myself a full-time Flutter developer, and also because of interacting with the community and whatnot, and with folks like you as well.
I'm glad you brought up the community piece. So you're also a GDG organizer,
Yes.
right? GDG Lawrence.
GDG Lawrence is a small developer community here in Lawrence, Massachusetts. And it's been like about 5 years. We started doing like web. We started doing some other Google technologies. Well, of course, we did Firebase Cloud. We focus on certification. But what our main focus is actually to bring the community together, give them the tools so that they can become successful in their careers as well. But also I throw a little bit of Flutter in there, and not to push my own agenda, because then he will feel like, oh, Roman created that just so that he could push Flutter. No, we do other technologies because I feel like right now in today's landscape, you need to be a well-rounded engineer, developer. And that's why I like to, like, for example, like whenever I build Flutter applications, I pair them up with Firebase. I do a Google Cloud, now Gemini, and so other things.
I just did a quick search while we were chatting, and there's 175 Flutter jobs. So,
there you go.
and it also has the 100 plus. So I'm sure there's more.
Yeah.
You can find a Flutter job, folks.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Just keep looking. A lot of them are remote too.
Definitely.
All right, we're going to take a quick sponsorship break, pay the bills, and then we're going to come back and talk more about Flutter and Firebase.
Let's do it.
Cloudinary allows you to remove any unwanted backgrounds, so you can reuse assets efficiently. You can also erase objects and people from images for placement in new experiences. For more engaging content, easily turn static images into dynamic animations, and rely on smart cropping to always deliver assets with a focus on the most relevant objects to your brand. Cloudinary Programmable Media. Build faster with AI-powered image and video APIs.
Algolia helps you create a search and discovery engine in 3 steps. Step 1, import your data. Import the API client, initialize the client and index, load the local JSON file, and then push to Algolia. Step 2, configure relevance. Define searchable attributes, add business metric, specify facets and filtering. And step 3, build your search UI, import widgets from the library, add instant search component, add search input, refine by attribute, display results, add pagination. And just like that, you're done. Build search effortlessly with Algolia.
Thank you, Cloudinary and Algolia, for sponsoring this podcast. Really appreciate it. So let's chat a little bit about, I'm looking at this video that I had up that we were going to talk about, and I feel like it's the old one, but I'm going to bring it up anyways. This is what's new in Flutter.
Oh yeah. One of my favorite sessions in the whole IO. Yeah.
It was pretty awesome. I didn't get to go to this one, but I watched it afterwards. Some good stuff, and I want to like break some of this down and get your thoughts upon it. What were kind of some of the highlights that you took away from IO for specifically for Flutter, the technology, and then we'll dive into the Flutter Firebase side of things.
Definitely. Yeah. So I love the fact that, again, first of all, why don't we, and I want to take the opportunity, in your platform to mention folks, don't fret about all the news that you hear out there about like, oh, Flutter dying or anything like that. We actually got reassurance from the Flutter team that there's a lot of Flutter more to go. So they're going to continue with their support. There's actually a lot of more improvements in the platform, in the framework itself. So I think I'm really excited to continue building stuff with Flutter because there's a lot more Flutter to go. So during I/O, I saw, like, for example, they mentioned improvements to Impeller. Everybody knows Impeller is like the rendering engine under Flutter, replacing Skia. Now actually removing all that shader compilation jank. It's actually much better now, available for Android. I also love the fact that, and I'm still a web guy, so I love the fact that Flutter now moved the WASM support now to the stable channel. That way you can build your Flutter applications almost like near native performance on the web using WASM.
Talk to me a minute about that. So I was listening to that piece of it, and I'm a web just through and through, like a web person.
Yeah.
When I hear like WASM, I think, cool, that'll work for specific apps like Figma or something like that.
Yeah, exactly, something like that.
But like when I think about like accessibility and all of those other features, what does that look like from a Flutter standpoint these days? Because in the original one, Flutter was only like a canvas, but now like We can
Correct.
do WASM. We can do what? We can do DOM,
You
actual
can do
like
DOM,
configuration in JavaScript.
because you could target the multiple renderers that Flutter has available. So you have the Canvas renderer, the HTML renderer. You also have now the WebAssembly one. But for example, for accessibility, actually, why don't we just actually emphasize in what they mention all the time? Flutter Web is for like web application experiences, more like, engaging animations and stuff like that. If you truly want to go for like SEO accessibility, maybe Flutter may not be the right choice for that, but
Okay.
Flutter is great for like those engaging, rich animated experiences on the web, as opposed to like websites, more for like web apps. So that's what I took away from that, and that's why I for example, like I've lived by that mantra.
Okay,
Flutter Web is for that. Yeah.
that's a really great differentiator, because I had Randall on before I went to
Love
IO,
it. Yeah.
who actually specifically asked the question, is Flutter, like, tell us about the status. So it was good to hear from the internal team, like, Flutter is a
Definitely.
thing where we've moved people around, but we are fully committed to it. That was great to hear. Anyways, and when we were talking, like, I was like, Randall, I think we're like off on something here, because I'm talking about, like, I need DOM elements, I need SEO and all that.
Yes, exactly.
I think that's a great point, a great suggestion about, like, if you want like more of interactive, like a Duolingo or something like that, like that
Exactly.
works great. But if
But
you're
no,
writing a blog post, maybe not.
maybe not. Yeah, maybe not.
Okay, cool. Sorry. So what else in that talk for the new features? I cut you off kind of midway
Oh
there.
no, that's fine. No, I was gonna say, like, people were cheering of the new improvements in Dart, the language itself behind Flutter, with macros. So Dart macros is kind of like, programs writing programs. So I'm very excited about that. I see a lot of improvement in the Dart as a language itself, and Flutter continues moving forward. There was also, and I know if you noticed that there was people were saying like, oh, there was a little bit of mention on Flutter during the keynote, but there was a lot of like Kotlin multi-platform. That's also something that I like to debunk. The Google team actually is providing more options for developers. So we need to be happy. We need to feel like, oh, we do have options in how we build applications, as opposed to like putting us in separate camps and like fighting, to death with each other. No, I said, Flutter is for these type of experiences where you want to like share both the UI and the business logic. Kotlin multi-platform is for, let's say, if you want to do just the business logic, but multiple UIs in the different platforms, is all good. So everybody, has a little bit of, to pick from. And actually, at the end of the day, users don't care what you build the application on, as long as it performs well, provides them value, looks good, and it gives them value and they can use it.
Yeah, that's a great point. I like those kind of cutaways for sure.
Yeah.
Did you go to any sessions like that? Did the crossover as well for Firebase, and kind of what's going on in the Flutter ecosystem with that?
I checked on the Fire, because I was in some other like sessions that they put us, like the GDEs, they pull us like on separate sessions. I was even in a developer advisory board. That was pretty good. That made me feel important. I was giving like the Google team, like I was giving them suggestions on how to improve not only Flutter but other products as well. But I was really excited about, and I really want to dive into that and maybe ask you questions about it, about Firebase Data Connect. The first thing that popped into my head, nice logo. Second, I hope Firebase doesn't ditch its bread and butter, which is the NoSQL, aspect of it, which I love, so much, and I use in all my applications pretty much. I keep saying that Flutter and Firebase are a match made in heaven, but then I said, oh, Firebase Data Connects. Oh, so we're doing Postgres now and GraphQL. So I wanted to ask you that, and maybe we can start on the Firebase aspect from that point.
Yeah, so it's really interesting, and that's why I was eventually going to get to there, but you kind of beat me to it. So totally agree. Like, the NoSQL side of Firebase is definitely bread and butter, but what users have been asking for years has been a SQL option to all of this, and so I think they've been working on this in the background for quite a while. And it wasn't so much probably the technology and what we'll end up seeing. And I could show you a few things too, for sure. But ultimately it was, how can we spin up Cloud SQLs and like get those going, and like all kind of interconnected pieces that took so long. And so what you end up seeing, and I agree, the logos now are all changing and dope. And I
Yeah,
tried
gotta
to
change it everywhere. Yeah,
I tried to pull the like marketing brand assets, and they weren't ready yet.
they
So
weren't ready yet. Yeah,
they released it pretty quick.
yeah. All my T-shirts are vintage already. Yeah, all my Firebase T-shirts. Yeah.
Oh man, I got a picture with Michael Blau, and he had the original Firebase T-shirt. I'm like, dang man, that's
Nice.
awesome.
Oh, the one that looks like a cylinder, like a drive. Yeah, that one.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, basically what you end up doing now is essentially like doing kind of like query side builder. And if you've ever done GraphQL or anything like that, the syntax is very similar to how you build that out. There is is it not on this page? I swear there is. Maybe it's in the docs. Let me double check real quick.
Yeah, and while you check that, so all other things that I heard about Firebase again, the Firebase app hosting that you could do, like Next.js, you can host your like JavaScript applications. I mean, I've been using Firebase hosting for years with my Flutter applications. Also, I love the fact that not only I can use Flutter, let's say with the Google AI SDK for Dart, but I can actually use it with Vertex AI for Firebase. I'm like, and then I love Flutter Fire, those packages. I'm hoping that they already provide some of the support, some of those capabilities, so
Yeah.
that I can tie them to my applications. But yeah, so many great things that my head is still like swollen. Like, oh, so much information, there's so much to do, very little time, to do so many things. But yeah, very
So
exciting.
I will say, like, I'm not quite up to speed on the data connect side of how you connect Flutter. I should dive into that a little further.
Cool.
But from a web standpoint, like what you end up doing is basically you're creating kind of the query space or like all of the definitions that you normally would with like a table and things like that. So for instance, this type here is of type table. So they're creating a user table with an ID, name, and address. And this not only creates in the SQL Cloud SQL side of things, it'll create a table named user, but it's also creating all the connection parts of that. So the GraphQL side that needs to connect up to that database, and what you end up with is a API endpoint that you can have. And so after that, you start to look at like these queries that you can run. And so if you've ever done, like I do Sanity.io a lot, so I'm actually rewriting my blog again, or CodingCat as a whole again, because I'm sick of not having a CMS. I really missed it. I didn't think I would, but writing Markdown all day is just kind
Yeah,
of
already worked out. Yeah.
burning me out, man. Anyways, when you look at their Grok language and kind of the new way that they handle this too, they're doing the same thing. So when you put like a query like this in, theirs is like Grok syntax, but this one is closer to GraphQL. You see the .gql side of it. What this is actually doing is building out all of your typing that's necessary for this too. So when you pull this into like something like TypeScript, you have a fully typed definition file as you build this out, along with like all of those table pieces, along with authentication. So it's wrapping all of those parts and pieces together into kind of one nice package that you can then spin out. So they do have like a Kotlin example. Like I said, I haven't seen anything Flutter wise.
Nothing Flutter wise. Yeah, I hope
I gotta
they come
believe
out with
it's. At the end of the day, like it's all an API and it's all tables in the back end anyway. So this is kind of a super simple example of how it works. I do have a little example that I'm putting a whole video together for on Data Connect using IDX right now too. So
yeah, love it. Love IDX.
but that's kind of the long and short on that side of things. I was curious if you if the team or anything, did you guys touch base on like Flutter Fire or anything like that?
Actually, we didn't touch on Flutter Fire. I wanted to hear more about that. I also, of course, ran into a couple of the team members. Of course, Puff. He's like, the OG. So I ran into him, but also every time I see him, it's like, let me take a picture with you, and stuff. But nothing that we dug into Flutter Fire. I wish, because again, it's a package that I continuously use every time, with my application. That's my go-to package for that. I wanted to see then again expose a couple of these functionalities, some of the new improvements in Firebase, some of the again, these things that they announced at I/O, but nothing that I got concrete from them yet.
You had kind of mentioned the Vertex side. Have you done a lot with that in Flutter?
I've been using the Google Generative AI package from Flutter, and then I've been actually experimenting with a couple of applications. I'm creating like my little startup. And then I'm building like applications in a SaaS model. So I'm tapping into Gemini. I'm so glad to be like one of the beta testers and initially for Gemini. And I have like a couple of ideas on building applications, Flutter applications powered by Gemini, not only on the web but also native. So I've been experimenting a lot with that. It's been an amazing journey. I love the fact that the Google team is like one message away. If I have any doubts, I just say, oh look, something is not working. Maybe could we do it like that? And they just say, oh look, this is available. This is the API. And is in what I like about this is that again, to be honest with you, a year ago, I had no knowledge, like deep knowledge about AI. For me, it was like everything went over my head.
Yeah, same.
But what this has allowed us is it has democratized the use of AI and large language models for us regular humans. Like, okay, now I'm able to build amazing applications powered by AI with just a few lines of code, and I don't have to know all the intricacies and all of that. Don't get me wrong, I'm really curious. I want to learn. I've been learning, but at the same time, I've been able to put stuff out there to show people what's possible with Flutter, Firebase, AI, Gemini, Gemma, all of those large language models. It's been an amazing journey.
Yeah, and something I learned when kind of you talk through like the I don't know, the complete nature, the environment of Firebase. One piece of that is that real-time config, remote config. There we go.
Remote config, yes.
The remote config feature now runs server side. So when you're doing like Gen AI and Vertex models and things like that, you can feature flag like what data sets you want people to try out and flip back and forth into. So just keep that in mind as you're kind of playing around with some of these things.
And you know that my stack, for example, I know that a lot of people say, yeah, you could use Flutter. There are other alternatives, let's say to Firebase, very competitive. But to me, the whole stack remains within Firebase, starting from Firebase authentication. I got to throw authentication on top of my applications. Then, for example, you have Firebase app check. Oh, that's something that, you actually, get there that you can use and implement in your applications to implement more security. But then you have something like Firebase Cloud Messaging, and I keep telling people this is free. You have to use it. It's free. You don't have to pay anything. And Firebase Cloud Messaging, allows you.
I didn't know that. I thought there was
Firebase Cloud Messaging completely free. But then in my company at Philips, they use other clouds. I'm not going to mention their names, but they use other clouds. And I've been pitching, like, you got to use like Firebase Crashlytics. That's free also, right? You don't have to pay. And people go like, what? Really? Yes. There's a bunch of other things that I've been implementing. And even in my applications, I use the whole stack. Firebase authentication, Firebase app check, cloud messaging, Firebase cloud functions, and then you do Firebase hosting. And I'm like, wow, I have my whole stack in here, and for pennies on the dollar, I build like really cool stuff and put it out there. And I'm like, oh, look, see, I don't have to stand up my own servers. It's all serverless. That's what I love about, again, pairing Flutter with Firebase.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's really interesting too. I had no idea messaging was free. I really didn't.
I think maybe recently they say we gotta put it for free, for people.
Because there's Firebase Cloud Messaging, and then there's like in-app messaging. I knew the in-app
messaging. Oh, that's.
And I knew in-app was free. I didn't know both was, but I just
one that I know they charge is like the phone authentication. And you gotta pay for that. So you gotta.
I got a fun backstory on that one, which I think I can talk about because it's pretty common sense. But like the SMS and carrier charges that they were trying to deal with for that stuff, that's the only reason that pushed them over on that one. Like, it's ridiculous. So a lot of people are complaining like, well, I really need a credit card for this, and it's like, that's why, because the Bitcoiners of the world and the scammers on tech, it's like just so bad. My head was going somewhere else. I lost it. Yeah. So when you started kind of using like Gemini in Firebase, I'm curious for the folks out there that want to get started, including myself. What do you suggest? Like, try out a tutorial, walk through that, or is it more high level than that even? Is it kind of start to understand concepts and terms to kind of get into both Gemini and like Vertex and, like every single level of that before you get started? What's your suggestion on that?
Very good point, Alex. And I keep mentioning to people, like people getting to the weeds and they're like, oh, this is so hard. And oh, let me watch 20 videos, 40 tutorials, and a bunch of things. No, you got to get your hands dirty and start playing with it. The best way to learn is exposing yourself, getting out of your comfort zone, and then start playing with it. Again, what I mentioned, just using Gemini and for example, like the Google AI SDK for Dart is like the easiest way to to break into this field and learning about it, like prototyping. And then you can, for example, like little by little understand those pieces. I recommend folks, if you really want to understand like the intricacies of that without going like way too over your head or like being too overwhelming, Cloud Skills Boost has an amazing generative AI path that you could get, for example, like as members of GDG communities, GDEs, folks in the regular community, they can look into the resources put out there by Google that you can learn like generative AI. Not even a non-coders can learn, but also us coders could also learn, and you can definitely get more familiar with that with hands-on labs, videos, more digestible content. And then that way it shows you at in a self-paced manner. You learn about Gemini, you learn how to adopt these technologies, how to combine them together, but at the same time you're building stuff, which is how I started. Like I didn't know anything. Oh, let me play with this. Oh, I see how this works. Okay, now let me build something simple. Now I want to know how it works, as opposed to like, let me learn, become an expert, and then I'm gonna start with a hello world. Now I think now the way that things are going so fast paced, it requires us to immediately tackle it head on.
Nice. I love that. And I don't know how far you've dove into different areas. So like if you just don't know, tell me. But
Go
I'm
ahead.
curious with all of there's a lot of things I haven't checked out yet. And there's Firebase GenKit, there's Firebase ML, there's Auto ML, and then things like Cloud Vision APIs and stuff like that. How do you see, or like how do you end up using like all of those together, or do they just not belong together?
I'll tell you the ones that I've used. For example, Firebase ML. I liked it at the beginning because you could, for example, like build your own little models. For example, let's say you want to do your own little TensorFlow pre-trained model that you could use to tap into something, right? And then Firebase ML, what it would allow you, not only you could host it in Firebase, like your own models, and you can talk to it via like an API, exactly, or you could actually even download it or asynchronously. Your application then is always updated, and the Firebase ML would allow you to tap into pre-trained models, exactly like kind of like as an API way. But you could also download it, train it in the cloud, download it to your application. That way you can save bandwidth if you want to use it, for example, more for training your model, like for a recommendation engine, like for your mobile application, and you can use it locally as opposed to keep tapping into the cloud to do that. So I like Firebase ML for that, and I've used it for that. Now you could use, for example, Firebase Cloud Functions, and you can deploy, for example, like you can talk to other, let's say other APIs, combine all that information, train your own models in the cloud, and then just use it as if it was a regular, if it was just a regular RESTful API. Those are the two aspects that I've used. Firebase GenKit, I loved it. I didn't realize that I was actually doing what Firebase GenKit is doing right now, unconsciously, in my Flutter applications, where I was, for example, requesting information, then saying, return it to me as a JSON payload, feed it into this other, let's say, cloud function, process something, and then give me back. Now, Firebase GenKit is gonna make it much easier. So it's kind of like a way for you to, again, like I keep saying, like democratize the tapping into large language models, but make it in a way so that you could tap into Firebase. Let's say your Firebase, let's say your Cloud Firestore data, you could pipe it through it, and then you can get recommendations from it. You can even implement like your own little kind of like your little retrieved augmented generation type of models, so that you can feed your Firebase data through this model and then get more intelligent, more on context information for your applications. So I really want to dig more into that. Like I said, I came back from IO with so many ideas, so many things that I wanted to do, a bunch of apps that I'm going to rewrite and add more features. But yeah, as far as, that's the extent to which I've gotten as far as like, ML combining into Firebase and whatnot.
Have you done anything on the like multimodal side where it's like videos or images or anything like that?
I don't want to say too much. There's an app that I'm building where I'm implementing the multimodal, and I'm just learning it. I could tell you, for example, like a week ago, where I was always doing like a chatbot. Okay, no more chatbots. Let's make more intelligent applications.
I want the next step, right?
Yeah, I want the next thing, and then that's why I started now tapping into, now. For example, like requesting information from Gemini, but then prompting it to say, give it to me as JSON, because I want to do things more programmatically, not just parse a bunch of text that you reply to me. Now I'm experimenting with uploading files, uploading images, uploading videos, and then I'm using, for example, like the Flutter, for example, let's say the camera package. The camera package from Flutter, then you can record a video. Now you get the X file out of it, which is in a format in WebM format. Then you pipe that WebM format through, let's say through Gemini, by creating a content, a multi-part content, and then you feed it. Then you can say, what's in this video? Or please, can you explain this video to me? Or the application that I'm building is actually, can you recognize that something is going on in this video? Give it to me as a JSON so I can then perform something else, maybe do a function calling, do more advanced stuff. So that's what I've been doing now. And a lot of people said, how can you put that into something that we can learn? That is then now tying in back into what I was mentioning. I'm creating a series of events where I'm going to combine Flutter and Gemini, and I'm going to touch on all those points. Like we're going to be doing, building cool applications with Gemini, but also we're going to do the multimodal aspect of it, where we send images, where we send videos, and you could also send a prompt and build like really cool stuff with it.
That's really amazing. That's really cool. It's funny because for my like demo apps that I want to build, it's kind of the same context, but I want to do everything around. I'm actually wearing the shirt today around CrossFit.
Oh, I love that.
And like, I want to be able to go into a hotel room when I'm doing like all these conferences and stuff, and like scan the room, and it like look at like what weights are available or like whatever's available, and it'll be like, okay, here's a workout for your day. Like, here's your 1 hour workout, right?
I like that. And so you can actually do that.
I think
you can actually do that. You could go like scan the gym, look at all the equipment, now create a personalized plan for me. You could do that and then say, okay, based on your preferences, based on your, you could even have like a profile created for you, like, your physique, your age, your height, your weight, or whatever. And then I'll create a personalized, but you see, now for that, you would actually need, again, tap into, those Gemini multimodal capabilities, but also maybe feed some information from Firebase, combine it, and then you could get more. I like your idea. You're onto something right there.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'll probably just kind of pitch it around as a demo talk to kind of talk about these things, but we'll see where it goes.
And that's what I love about, again, Google Cloud, Firebase, that it allows you to create, even as an MVP or a prototype, something very robust that then you can pitch to someone, but it's not like a hacky application, like, this is just a, hello world. No, you can actually build something robust for, even in the Spark tier or Firebase, at least let's go to Blaze at least. But you could go to the Blaze. You don't have to spend much money, but you could actually put something really robust out there. I love your idea. I hope you could actually take it forward.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I was super excited to build all kinds of stuff, and then I got back to work. I'm like, I don't have time.
Back to reality. Yes, exactly.
It's funny. We were talking about we have Spark, we have Blaze, and then there was a third option a long time ago where it was like a fixed fee, and everyone complained it went away. I'm like, you don't even understand how much cheaper this is. Don't even worry about it.
Yes, exactly. Don't even worry about that.
Any other things that I'm forgetting to kind of mention that kind of the Flutter side of Firebase with Flutter outside of like the fire. You know what? Something that I just thought of when I was at IO, the Flame group. So I don't know how much gaming you do, but we've had Flame on the show a couple times to talk about the 2D engine that they have. Anything along those lines that you picked up that you hadn't seen in a while?
I love the Flame folks. Lucas, he's my buddy. Again, shout out to Lucas and the whole Flame team. But and I also saw that there was this workshop about like how to create Flame games with Forge 2D. Very cool. I think Brett led that session. I love Brett also. So I've actually built a couple of games myself, more casual games. I'm more of the casual games type of guy. But even though I love Flame, I haven't created a game using Flame, and I tell you why. I love Flame. I recommend it. If you're those of you who are watching, if you want to build a game, build it with Flame. But me, I like to show people that sure, Flame is great, but you may not even need Flame for smaller games, like smaller casual games. I built like about 5 or 6 games. None of them use Flame. And I've actually put them out there, and people say, "Oh, this is pretty cool." Was it built in Flame? No, because this is a very simple game. For example, like you creating your own game loop. It's not too hard. Whenever you want to again render multiple items on the screen, you just have to architect it well so that it performs well. It doesn't render your application so that you can tap into the capabilities of Flutter. And you know that Flutter allows you to own every single pixel on the screen. So your app is the whole canvas. So that's what I love about Flutter. And you could even use the games toolkit from Flutter. You could use engines like Flame. You could use, for example, like Rive also to bring some animations into it. Or you can just use plain Flutter and it would allow you to do that. So there's no excuse. My reasoning for that was to show people, oh, you don't want to use Flame. You don't have to use Flame if you want to build a game. So there's no excuse as of not to adopt Flutter to build like a game or anything else.
That's a really good point. I'm going to do a little self-promotion here. If you're curious about building a Flame
Perfect
Flutter app, we built the kind of Flappy Bird.
And I've seen it. And I said, oh, see, this is the perfect game for that. Exactly.
It's super fun. It was super easy. If you've ever done anything like object-oriented based, class-based, you can get into Flutter super easy. Like I'm a web guy. I'm definitely a functional programmer these days, not class-based, object-based, but it was super easy to check out and a lot of fun too. I don't know if I can get I was gonna see if there was the flapping part on this.
The flapping part, yeah.
Let's see.
I love everything about Flame, the things that they've been put out, a couple of hackathons they've created. Again, I keep saying, go for Flame if you're building a game because you want to put it out there. Me, I was just saying, oh, let me show you the alternative if you don't want to use it, but it's the preferred way to go, of course.
Yeah, totally. Cool. Well, I'm going to wrap it up there. I really appreciate kind of the breakdown of Flutter and Firebase and coming back out of I/O and what you learned. It's always good to ping pong like ideas, especially in like the GenKit and generative space that we're living in these days. So that was really awesome. I'm going to flip over and we will do our perfect picks. Roman actually picked one that's super crazy, man.
It is crazy. I think that's the only way to put it. It's the only way to put it.
I still haven't looked up if this is actually real. They say it's real, but
they said it at the beginning. This is based on a real story. I'm like, okay,
Fargo though. I'm like, Fargo's not real.
Yeah, Fargo's not real. Like halfway through this series, I went back to them. They said it was real. Is this real? Oh my God. I'm like, this is completely wacko, but I enjoyed every minute of it. He kept me like hooked into it. Again, for those of you watching, if you want to catch something this weekend, whatever, and you truly have the time, it's going to hook you and it's going to make you want to watch the next one. That's what I loved about this one.
Yeah. When this first dropped, I watched one episode. I'm like, oh, well, I'll just watch the next one. The next thing I know, I'm like up until 4 a.m. finishing the stupid thing. And like, I will say it's how do I put this? I always try to give people like don't watch this with your kids, first of all.
Yes, first.
And also it's a little bit triggering too. So like just word of warning, like it's a lot to digest.
It is a lot. It's a lot.
Let me put it that way. So other than that, it's a good show that hooked me for sure as well. I went on the nerdy side for my pick today. Next.js, we just did Vercel ship dropped. A lot of updates just in the core 14 and kind of what's going on there. But what I was stoked about is the things happening in the next 15 release candidate that's coming out. They have support for React 19, which is doing ridiculous things. I saw a perfect example of one kind of come across my feed where there was like an embedded function that just within the function does server stuff and the rest is client using UseEffect. And I was like, wait, what? Like, it took me a minute to like completely understand, but that along with partial pre-rendering, I'm super stoked about. So I'm excited to try this one. I probably won't hit my my production apps with this just yet. I think Turbo is ready on the dev side. That was announced. I can never remember the URL. It's like ready for turbo.dev or something like that. But they pass all tests now, just not on the production side. So that should be coming pretty soon, I would assume. So definitely check it out. Maybe write your next new app in this one as we go forward. A lot of concepts to kind of wrap your head around in the web space these days. You know, what's happening on the server, what's not happening, why am I writing components here? Like, it's all over the place. So
yeah, like tomorrow I'm already outdated, like as far as like web stuff. That's why I think this week I also started watching a little bit of the React global conference by Google. A couple of friends of mine were there exposing. So again, see, I'm a Flutter guy, but I like to walk across the aisle and talk to my web guys and my web friends.
Oh my God, are we like left and right still?
Yeah, exactly. You wanna go across the aisle, talk to your friends. But yeah, it was great. A lot of things to digest in there. A lot of great things on the web space. So it's really exciting times, and that's why I kept mentioning going back to the Flutter, and there's a lot of potential with it with WASM because it's gonna again open up so many possibilities for me. It's gonna allow me to, let's say, skip any stores, any app stores, and I can just deliver my applications directly to users using like near native performance on the web. So for those of you also doing on the web, the web at WASM is actually opening up to other platforms as well, to other frameworks. So it's good times for the web. I see it.
Yeah, I always have a challenge kind of walking away from it for all the reasons we talked about. Like I've done a couple mobile things, a couple Flutter things just to like try them out and see what's different. And there's definitely a lot of power to be able to kind of get into that that native device for sure. But at the end of the day, like I feel like being able to have my app go anywhere I wanted to, that's the biggest thing. And I think Flutter is probably one of the closest things. That the only other thing I could compare is Expo doing React Native stuff has been an eye-opener, just in the sense that if you've done anything Next.js wise, I think you can cross over to Expo super easily with their file-based routing and stuff like that. So
cool. Very cool.
Yeah, I agree. I'm on both sides. Whatever works for the app and makes it the greatest. Roman, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Did you have any plugs we might have chatted about you wanted to throw out there?
No, all I wanted to say again, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me to all your audience. Thank you so much, Alex. You have such an amazing platform. I love the things that you're doing. Thank you so much for inviting me. I just wanted to again invite all of you to follow me on Twitter @DearCoders. I'm also putting like a bunch of stuff in there. Also, you can visit my my portfolio page, romanjustcodes.web.app. Actually, it was not built with Flutter. It was actually built with Angular back when I started like doing this, content creation thing. But now I'm actually also doing the same thing as you. I'm rewriting it. But there's a lot of things coming my way as far as like Flutter, Firebase, Gemini. I have a series of events where we're going to be doing like hands-on workshops, virtual, completely free for the community. If you sign up at gdg.community.dev/gdglawrence. So we're going to be doing a series of events where we're going to bring people together, but also we're going to be building apps together using Project IDX. We're going to be building Flutter applications, tapping into Gemini. We're going to do a lot of cool things. So I hope you guys can join. And again, thank you so much for having me here.
Absolutely. Come back anytime. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care.